A long, long time ago, at the beginning of it all, the universe was nothing but an empty void. Two starry celestial beings ruled within the emptiness. These two beings communicated telepathically through the starry neurotransmitters firing off between them. We refer to these two deities as Alabaster and Alasdair. Yet within all of their glory, intelligence, and ideas, they lacked heart, emotion, and sense. So they continued thinking and evolving exclusively on the psychological level. Alasdair, the superior being who computed at lightning speeds, held the ideas that would eventually make up our universe. This highly intelligent god kept on exploring possibilities within their mind at exponentially faster rates. On the other hand, the other deity, Alabaster, tried to keep up with Alasdair, but seemed to encounter roadblocks and errors at every turn. The spite and confusion inside of Alabaster grew into an abundance of what would become the very beginning of negative emotions. A third being, Caspian, much smaller and senseful, stuck by Alabaster's side. Initially, Caspian lacked the intelligence of these two gods, but possessed the beginnings of what would become positive emotions and the heart. It wasn't too long until Alasdair reached the mind's limit. Approximately 13.8 billion years ago, Alasdair overloaded his mind and exploded. The deity's thoughts and ideas rapidly expanding outwards from the origin, lighting up and filling the empty void surrounding them. These ideas were so powerful that they could craft reality itself. In the absence of Alasdair, Alabaster seized the deceased deity's thoughts and proceeded to organize them into neat clumps within the universe. Alabaster claimed the glory for Alasdair's work. This included all of Alabaster's ideas for life, mobility, and the senses. Alabaster and Caspian used these tools for both their creations and for themselves. From Alasdair's ideas, the two gods organized the universe and the planets within them, called orbs. Once this initial setup concluded, Alabaster gave Caspian a starry orb to do whatever they wanted with. Caspian used Alasdair's ideas to fulfill the desire to create life on the orb, filled with Caspian's happy emotions and senses. Life on the orb flourished, starting with tiny microbes and advancing to humans, which became the most positive emotional creatures of all under Caspian's rule. Caspian's orb was characterized solely by love, life, and happiness. Caspian ruled the orb from the clouds. The wolf-like deity began to learn from Alasdair's thoughts, and over time began to create life in their own image. And so this god formed the Weather Wolves. This was a clan of godlike creatures that followed Caspian and tended to the natural environment of the orb, which themselves held much power and very little emotion. Caspian did not hold the ability to grant both power and emotion to one creation. However, misfortune began to appear on the horizon. Over time, Alabaster became soaked in negative emotions, an abundance of power, and a lack of senseful thought. This god became hot-headed and envious of Caspian's creations based on what Alabaster believed were their rightful ideas. After all, this god believed that Alasdair's ideas were all rightfully theirs. Eventually, Alabaster's anger and resentment overruled any connection to their dear friend. Alabaster decided to move towards taking back the orb that they originally had given to Caspian, setting fire to half of the orb and releasing their own thoughts of negative, monstrous creatures. This attack wiped out all who lived in that specific hemisphere in a hellish flaming assault. Alabaster cursed the surviving half to live in a society where one could never truly be satisfied. Negative emotions ran rampant. Caspian, fearless and positive, did everything the wolf-like deity could do to try to save their creations. Out of desperation, Caspian shot a cylindrical hole straight through the middle of the orb. This route was used so that the Weather Wolves could evacuate the life that survived Alabaster's attack with speed. but the negative emotions of Alabaster had already settled in on the orb, tainting Caspian's perfect creation. Nevertheless, Caspian fought back, but the Weatherwolves, lacking much emotion, did not wish to fight. Caspian was dumbfounded. Not only would Caspian's clan not obey the wolf-like deity's commands, but the emotions lingering on the orb were becoming impure in Caspian's initial vision. Caspian reorganized the pack without a second thought, placing a special curse on them to force them into ensuring positivity among the humans and living creatures in their environment. This curse, called Caspian's Curse, worked in the following ways. Most spirits without a living body, which were predominantly weatherwolves but not limited to, would slowly progress towards corruption over time. Corruption would quicken if spirits remained idle or unwilling to work towards what Caspian viewed as the common good. However, if spirits completed the tasks which Caspian demanded of them, they would drastically slow down their rate of corruption. Therefore, these spirits were forced to actively ensure the protection of Caspian's positive creations by taking actions to promote the health of life's positive emotions, senses, and environment. One must remember that Caspian did this out of what they viewed as the right thing to do. Additionally, Caspian did not take the time, nor did he have the time, to think about the consequences of his actions, a common recipe for disaster. Caspian, the almighty positive being, forced the spirits into ensuring the protection of the wolf-like deity's creations by placing the spirits in a state of logical fear, an emotion created by Alabaster. If they did not follow Caspian's orders or protect the god's values, they would become corrupted. Once corrupted, these spirits would be forced to live a life in the shadows, mucking up the negativity of the orb until their eventual passing, which would not be granted until deemed fit by the ruler of the clan, or until no negativity was left to feed off of. For additional incentive and a positive reason for action divergent of fear, Caspian put forth what they saw as their best creation yet, also known as linkage. This produced the possibility for uncorrupted spirits to form an incredibly strong bond with humans, creatures who Caspian deemed perhaps their most successful emotional work of all. The masterful plan opened the possibility for spirits to obtain emotions and an optional living form, while also slowing or even stopping their individual rate of corruption. It would allow them to experience what it was that they protected. They would finally be able to walk among the living.